Man, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Especially hearing my voice.
Welcome to the Koutas Show. Yeah, it's super nice, and if you need to pull and tug, it's got plenty of leeway there. So
Okay.
but yeah,
Awesome.
Welcome to the show, man. Ernesto. We met originally. Are you ready to go?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Cool. Yeah, we met originally in softball, which is so much fun. Because
Yep.
when I was working for Weber, we had that softball league, and then you were pitching for us, which is how we met in the first place.
Yeah,
So.
no, great time. I was great time meeting all you guys. I actually subbed a couple more times for your team after the fact. So.
Nice. Yeah, I tried to sub for them as much as I could. Definitely, they needed some guys because I transitioned to a different job. But I'm still friends with them. I just went to one of my buddy's weddings that still works there.
Okay.
So like I'm super big fan. But yeah, it's been fun playing softball. It's like, so I've never actually played softball until I graduated college and then joined an adult league.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So like I never played youth baseball or anything.
No. Oh, man.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
But you wouldn't think that though, right? You saw me swing. I usually hit right.
Yeah,
to shortstop.
you're pretty good. You're pretty good.
For an average player that's probably never played before, we'll take it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Hey,
Yeah.
It's rec league, so
Yeah, we're there to have fun.
Yep,
We're there to ball out. We're not there to compete for no championships like the first division. Although the first division definitely gets pretty competitive.
It does, and it could be a little challenging for the rec teams that are playing, especially in the spring and the fall where they mingle all together. So
yeah, that's cool. All right, let's get into your story. Where did you grow up as a kid, and where did you go to high school? What did you want to be when you were a little kid? What was your dream? Did you want to be an astronaut? Did you want to be a police officer like you were? How'd you get to that?
So growing up, I was born in Chicago. I grew up in Chicago. Obviously, I moved outside of the city as I was growing up. Went to high school in the suburbs. But growing up, I mean, ever since I can remember as a little kid, Cops was always on TV back then. And I was like, you know what? I knew immediately that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a cop. So here goes 20-something years later, and I've been a cop for over 20 years.
That is awesome. So you can pull the mic a little closer. I can hear. You can lay back. That's fine.
Okay.
I'm just saying, make sure. Yeah. Make sure it's clear.
Okay.
You can pull it like towards you. Yeah, there you go.
That?
Yeah. And
Okay.
sit back.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go. So did you go to school for like pre-law or for criminal justice or anything like college, or did you go directly into the police force?
So originally starting out, I started out as a reserve officer. So that was in Indiana, non-paid, but full police power. So I was putting my life on the line for people for free, just because I wanted to get into the field. And back then, it was extremely difficult. When you're applying, you're going up against thousands and thousands of applicants. Now it's a little easier to actually get into the field. So I started off my career as a reserve officer. I was going to college, went to college for criminal justice, and then kept applying, and then I got my full-time position out in Phoenix, Arizona. Worked out there, did some moving around, went to Mesa PD, came out here, worked for the suburbs, and now I work for the great city of Chicago.
That's awesome, yeah. And it is 9/11, so
It is.
even more embrace to the amazing first responders that we have in the United States. Obviously, the tragedy of New York, it's crazy. And the first responders and police officers, we really do thank them all for their truly amazing service. You are, like you said, putting your life on the line out there, and it is definitely appreciated. And keeping us safe in all these environments and all these crazy times is much appreciated, Ernesto. So thank you.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. How was the hotness of Arizona?
Oh man, so I love being in the heat. So when I moved out there, no family. It was just me and my immediate household. We went out there. The heat can definitely get to you. I mean, I remember from days just we worked 10-hour shifts. So I would start my shift usually at 6 a.m. getting out at 4. So 11 o'clock to 2 o'clock, it's like 110, 115 degrees out there, and you're standing out on a perimeter with your vest on and all the, your shirt. By the time you're done, you could literally ream your shirt out with water and sweat.
Yeah.
It was brutal. And then you start getting like those heat headaches and stuff like that. So you definitely had to make sure you were hydrated, especially if you got a day when you're, on a perimeter and standing outside your car with no AC and stuff. So
Yeah, that's tough. Did they have a lot of electrolytes providing back there? Because I know nowadays I got like packets of electrolytes just ready to go, and I just have one of those a day, and it's just like I'm almost hydrated for the whole day.
unless you bring it, it's not provided. So
Yeah.
you always need to make sure out there that you had, liquids available. So if not, you're just
Yeah, since you grew up in Chicago, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
So you're used to the cold. Because not a lot of people come here and they're just like, wait a second, this is not the cold that I signed up for.
No, you know what? Growing up here, I'm not made for the cold. I mean, I absolutely hate it. Once we get 50-degree weather, I'm wearing thermals.
Yeah.
I'm
Same way.
wearing thermals because I absolutely, I hate the cold.
Yeah,
But I'm here.
And it's like negative 20-degree wind chill, and I'm just like, why?
Yep.
Like, why can't it just be like a nice 20 to 30 degrees, which it would have been perfect, but then it fluctuates between like 40 and then 20, and then you get like all the ice everywhere.
Yep.
It's really got to be careful. But now you went from a cop to now being a charter for Lake Michigan. You're taking people out on boats. So how did you transition from being a police officer to now taking people on boats, taking people fishing for the first time, for many times, for tournaments? I saw you had some tournaments. You're
Yes.
also on WGN. That's pretty impressive. So how did you transition from that, and how did you know that was something you definitely wanted to do down the line?
So, growing up, I had a few passions in life. 3 of them, to be exact. Baseball player, fishing. I wanted to have my own fishing talk show, and being a cop. Those were my 3 passions, growing up. And I'm actually living all 3 of them, which most people can't say.
Yeah.
So it's all about motivation, ambition, and stuff like that. So, growing up, I remember, I think as young as 3 years old, my father, he was a fisherman, so we would constantly go fishing. We fished Lake Michigan a lot. So I remember growing up, my dad would like to go fishing at night, usually during the school season, and we would have school the next day. But he would take me with him. I'd beg him, like, hey, can I go fishing with you, And I got hooked. I was hooked. So, that transitioned over, just throughout my life, just fishing. And then I was like, during the COVID time, I had purchased a boat, and during that time when I had purchased my boat, I would have people be like, hey, you got a boat, take us out. I'm
What
like,
year
okay.
did you purchase that boat?
So I would say probably like in 2014, 2015.
Okay. So
somewhere
well
around
before
there.
the pandemic.
Well, yeah, yes. So the business I started in during the pandemic.
Okay, gotcha.
So, but it was a smaller boat, so it's obviously I could only take out, a couple people here and there. And then I would also go out and, I would hire guides myself, so they could take me out. So that's kind of how I learned, as well as like social media and stuff like that, about fishing. But, so eventually I was like, you know what, I could make this into a business. During COVID, I started studying for my captain's license. Went through all the courses, got my captain's license, and started my business. I was like, full train ahead. I was like, nothing's gonna stop me. So I went ahead, started applying for my licenses, my permits, my business name, and all that good stuff. And 4 years later, now I went from a 16-foot boat to an 18-foot boat to a 19-foot boat to a 25-foot boat. Now I have a 33-foot boat.
Nice.
So and I'm actually buying my 3rd boat later this week, which I'll be posting on my social media shortly.
Awesome.
So we have 3 boats.
That is amazing. What's probably the biggest struggle that you went through from purchasing that first boat up until today?
The biggest struggle is just being motivated, and obviously, you got all that in the back of your head. You got competition out on the lakes, new business. You have all these companies that already started who have built a consumer base. So just being the new guy, But fortunately, Lake Michigan is very welcoming to other charter, captains. There's organizations you could join, and everybody's been supportive. Companies who are either double booked or they have more than enough bookings, they'll call me and be like, "Hey, you want a booking?" I'm like, "Yeah." So that was nice. Just having other charter guys, reach out and be like, "Hey, we'll go ahead and send you some of our customers your way, so to help build it." So now I'm running a ton of trips. I'm pretty swamped. So.
That's great. So how do you delegate all of those different? Because you know you're gonna have 3 boats. How do you delegate that? Who do you work with? Do you have like a first man you work with, your second hand? How do you manage that large portion of the business of expansion?
So I usually run everything myself. I'll run. I have boats specific for certain times of the season. But I actually am in the process of hiring another charter captain to expand my business to Indiana. So I started that today. I filled out my applications today to expand to Indiana. So hopefully by 2025, I'll be operating in Chicago as well as Indiana.
That would be sweet. So that way you can go down to Indiana, do some business, Chicago, do business. Is Indiana well known for like a lot of lakes and fishing, or is it?
Yeah, so it'll be like East Chicago area, which it's, Lake Michigan is right there. So the fishing is phenomenal during the spring over there. They basically get a lot of the spring fish, the cohos, way before they come into Chicago. So they're starting their season late February, March, catching all these fish over there. And then eventually, late April, May, those fish work their way down to Chicago. So by expanding and having a boat over there, I'm able to start earlier and, start giving these customers, the opportunity to get out there and fish. So.
Yeah, that's super awesome. So when they come on the boat, what's the kind of experience that they go through? Do you have to give some sort of training explanation? I mean, there's obviously some safety that has to be
absolutely
acquired before you go out there in Lake Michigan. You got to wear the vest. You got to make sure you know what you're doing. What kind of training do you go through? And is it hard to teach people that have never done it before, or is it easy? Do people catch on quick?
Yeah. So obviously safety comes first before anything. So. I created a video for my customers to watch beforehand. And so they'll have a video beforehand. They could watch it multiple times, which we go over all of our safety equipment. And we go over, the outlet, the way the boat is, where the equipment is at. We go over like the marine radio. And then we go over all the fishing equipment that we use. We go over technique. On how to fight the fish, because obviously for people who've never experienced or been on the water or fished or anything like that, it's a lot of technique in order to. It's not just reeling in a fish. There's a technique that needs to be done in order to successfully land the fish. So people will fight these fish, but if they have wrong techniques, they're gonna lose the fish. So we go over all this with the customers beforehand. And we also, as they're fighting the fish, bringing the fish in, we're also guiding them through the process to try to successfully land that fish.
Wow. I feel like for a first-time person, it would be kind of intimidating. And I feel like I would be a first-time person because I think I've fished maybe once or twice in my life. So I have thought about literally signing up with you for my dad. Don't tell my dad yet. But I definitely want to get out there with you because I think it'd be such a good experience because, I mean, there's not a lot of opportunity to get some fish that I've seen that you've catched that are quite large.
Yeah, you know what? It's a lot of people are not aware of the type of fish that we actually have in Lake Michigan. They look at Lake Michigan and they're like, oh, there's, like bass and carp and bluegills and catfish and stuff. And then when I take people out there and they're catching these monster king salmon, these, trophy lake trout, and brown trout and steelhead and cohos, and just, their eyes and how big they open up when they see that, they're catching a 36-inch lake trout that weighs 20-something pounds, a king that's over 25 pounds, it's like, wow, these fish are in here. I was like, yep. And they're even bigger. They're even bigger.
So. That is awesome. How far away do you have to go from the city of Chicago to find the large fish? Is it pretty close, or do you just have to go a couple 30 minutes or hours out of the city?
So these fish love cold water. So in the beginning of the season, during the springtime, we're literally fishing right when we come out of the harbor. We're setting lines for these fish. That's how close they are.
Wow.
As it starts getting hotter and hotter out, now we're working further and further. So from going in the springtime where we're fishing right outside the harbor, now we're going 15, sometimes 20 miles offshore to find these fish because we have to get to deeper, colder water. So it takes about an hour sometimes, like this time of the year, to get out where we need to find the fish. But in the springtime, they're right there. So you basically get in there and you're catching fish right away.
Yeah, so if you want the views and the big fish, springtime. Is basically the time to go.
Oh, yeah.
You're catching the fish, pulling it out, and you get to turn and look at a beautiful skyline.
Oh, yeah.
That's sweet. So do you think that obviously more north then would be where you guys charter, or do you guys go right from the inner city?
No, so like in the springtime, we are like fishing close by the playpen area. So that's right down, you got this
downtown.
whole skyline right there. So we're right there. You get the perfect view.
Yeah.
But even when we're 10, 15 miles offshore, you still see that whole skyline.
Yeah, it's you can see it from here sometimes. Oh, yeah, depending on the weather or what street you're on.
Mm-hmm. So especially on clear days, when the sun is just rising up and stuff like that, you have that whole background of that skyline. So, it's a breathtaking view. And then when I do my evening trips and the sun is going down behind the city, you have that nice, fiery, sun behind the skyline, and then you have the city lights. It's an awesome view.
Yeah, no, that is for sure. What do you think the biggest struggle that you've gone through in terms of like an individual? Have you ever had someone that's like fallen off the boat or anything, or any mishaps that have happened?
No, I take safety stuff very serious. Mm-hmm. So, one, I don't let people get to the level of intoxication. Obviously, that's a huge thing. And then if conditions are not favorable, then we won't go out. Okay. So, and my boat is pretty large. Like the gunnels are pretty. So unless they intentionally go to jump off, they're not going to fall off. So knock on wood, once I leave to make sure, because, obviously safety is, it's life or death out there. You fall in these waters, especially when we're 15, 20 miles offshore, these conditions, I've been out there when waves all of a sudden, they're over 6, 7, 8 foot, waves, which is dangerous and deadly. Yeah. So you got to be real careful. And, once it's, if it gets like that, we're heading in.
Yeah, for sure.
So
that's pretty cool. What would you give in terms of advice for a young entrepreneur who wants to start his own, whether it's a fishing business or business in downtown Chicago? How would you kind of push him towards getting started?
Be motivated. Nobody's going to motivate you. They could try to motivate you, but you have to want it. Like I've had people look at me and they were joking and they're like, oh, like, this guy's going to fail or he doesn't know what he's doing. And, and thankfully, I've been pretty successful as of right now. So I'm expanding, I'm trying to make the best decisions as possible. I do a lot of research, and just stay focused. Stay focused. If you want it, you'll get it. It's just a matter of time, whether it happens the next day or you have to wait a year. You'll work toward your goal. Mm-hmm. So
I've always seen where people kind of get a little bit too distracted and they're just right there at their goal and they just kind of have to just keep pushing through. Yep. Like it's right there. You just got to keep being disciplined, keep doing the little things, keep pushing through, and you'll break through that barrier. Yep. And I mean, obviously you're doing it right now with what you're going to be doing in Indiana, which is going to be awesome for you. I'm wishing you the best of luck. What has been like a motivational quote or something that you've lived by or like a moral value that you hold dear that really pushes you through?
My thing, I mean, I don't have any real quotes or anything like that, but my thing is I have kids, so I want my kids to see that anything is possible. If you work hard, you could have fun, you could make money, you could have everything you want and live very comfortably by making, good decisions and being focused. So I live by by trying to set examples that I want my kids to follow, as they continue to grow. I have adult kids already. My youngest is 15. So I try to lead by example. I set my own goals. I set my own, mission. And that's how I live, and that's how I want my kids to see me as a good role model. So, if you can't sit there and expect them to do something and not set examples and not lead by example. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. So that means that you kind of started this whole journey while you already had kids and were established. So how scary was that, getting into this business where you were like, all right, well, I'm starting this business and we're going to go for it, and I'm going to show what it's like to build my dream, and these kids can have a perfect example. How was that like when you bought that boat back in 2014?
Yeah, so I had my kids when I was young, so I had a very supportive family who helped tremendously, which gave me the opportunity to achieve the things that I currently have. So without having that support system behind me, it would have probably been way more challenging. But, and when I started my business, my kids were already almost in at least a few of them were already in their adulthood, but even then, they still had, they're still looking at me, looking to see what I'm doing, calling me for advice. So that right there, just them seeing my accomplishments, even at, after so long, it just shows them anything's possible.
Yeah, that is super cool. All right, now I want to get into baseball, because you said that's your 3 goals was you love. See, there it is.
There it is.
Right there. So what is this jersey, and explain to people what is this police league that you're in?
So the Chicago Police Knights Baseball Club, phenomenal organization. It was established in 2018. Pretty much all first responders from different agencies. Majority of them are going to be from Chicago PD. So our president, Eric Bermudez, great guy. He's like, hey, let's start this organization. It's a community-based organization where we give back to the community. And that's pretty much like the mission. The main mission is giving back to the community and helping kids. So he's like, hey, let's get this organization together. They created a board, started a not-for-profit organization, which the Chicago Police Knights is part of. And, we go out there and we play baseball. We play against other teams in the league. We do competitions throughout the country, go to different states, play other police baseball teams. It's a good time. It's a whole bunch of first responders getting together, playing baseball. A couple years ago we played at Wrigley Field, which I played outfield. I got to go into the dugout. I got to go into the pitching, the pitching area. I got to stand at the plate and try to hit the ball. I'm beyond my playing time age, when it comes to baseball. So that's why I'm more of a softball player right now, because that's more my speed at the moment.
That is so cool. How was that Wrigley Field experience? You had to feel like a player, basically, right?
Man, it's growing up, I watched the Cubs all the time. WGN, always on. Even when I moved, I lived in Puerto Rico for some time. We'd have WGN, TV out there, and just watching the Chicago Cubs play. And just being able to go on the field and play and have the fan base, behind us, because it's open to the public, so people could buy tickets and stuff like that and go watch us play. So it was fun. It was a great time just being there, signing autographs for the kids in the stands and stuff like that. It was a great time. And we have our media guy, Eddie. He's does great videos and stuff like that. So he captures like all the events, and he puts a video together, takes pictures and stuff like that. So it was just a great time.
That is
great
awesome.
time.
Did you feel like a professional player when you're out there?
I did, until I went up to bat.
And then you're sitting there, you're like, ooh, I gotta swing. Was it fast pitch?
Oh yeah, it's fast pitch. It's fast pitch. So It's one thing to play baseball and not having, a couple thousand people behind watching in the stadium and they know who you are personally. So
Right.
like if you mess up, there's going to be memes, there's going to be pictures, there's going to be all this things going around. But I didn't mess up too bad, so.
Yeah. Did you get a base hit?
No, I popped out to second.
Okay, there you go.
So,
hey,
yeah.
Hey, pop out second. I mean,
Yeah.
not a lot of people can say that they popped out the second in Wrigley Field, but you
No.
can say that.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
super cool.
So
how do the media guys work then? Do they just come around and just take photos of everybody and just encourage the program and just kind of try to raise awareness and raise awareness for the fundraisers that you guys do and all the help you provide these young people?
Yeah, so obviously Eddie, he is part of the Knights. He's a Chicago cop as well.
Mm-hmm.
And, he has a whole setup. I mean, this guy is phenomenal with the camera and, he's brilliant. So, he being part of the team, we have that luxury of having somebody right there to record and donate his time, not only for the baseball games, but for the charity events as well. We did a charity event not too long ago for kids back to school, backpacks and stuff like that, where the Chicago DJs came out and, it was just a great event, So having him being able to record everything and, so people could actually see what the organization does for the community is priceless.
Yeah, that's awesome. So do you do a lot of fundraisers then throughout the city, throughout the year?
We do.
What's your top five? What's your top five favorite fundraisers that you go to?
Oh boy. So we do like a Toys for Tot. We do the Thanksgiving. We do the back to school events.
Mm-hmm.
A couple years ago we did for domestic violence shelter. We do events for fallen officers. So like this organization gets involved in with whatever they can, as long as it's positive and it's going to have a positive impact on the community and officers and the team. That's what the organization is about. So it's about giving back and having a good time while doing it.
Wow, that is cool. I didn't know you were also involved in a lot of this stuff. This is pretty cool.
Yep.
I'm still appalled by the fact that you're smacking out in Wrigley Field. I think that's super cool. Did
Is.
you catch any fly balls out there?
No, they did hit some balls in my direction, but they were not catchable.
Yeah.
It
just
was
like
just
singles.
and
you just
so
scoop and toss it in.
Yep. So I wish they hit it in my direction, but it is what it is.
Yep.
It is what it is. Just being out there and just taking it in, it gave me the opportunity to just absorb everything,
Mm-hmm.
and just look around and be like, wow.
Mm-hmm. So I'm curious now about your role as a father. So you talk about all these examples of showing your kids basically, obviously Wrigley Field, hitting balls there, even if you're popping out, right? You're showing them business, how to build that up. So what do you think that your importance, like in your role as a father, for these guys setting example, did that start kind of when you had that first kid? Did something kick in to where you were like, all right, now I got to go? Or did it kind of kick in later on? How did that feel?
So I had my first kid when I was in high school.
Okay.
So I was young. I was going into my senior year. So just backtrack a little bit. Mm-hmm. I've always had the motivation to work. So I was working since I was 12 years old. If you sit there and you absorb that, 12 years old,
pretty young.
I would get out of school, and I was basically doing door-to-door sales for a company where we would sell candles, coloring books. We would walk around with a little plastic bin going door to door, and we would sell, things for like $5, $10. So right after school, I would go home. The bus would pick us up and take us to different neighborhoods throughout the state, and be like, all right, this is your route. Go here and make as many sales as you can. So I was doing that at the age of 12 years old, working. Work, I've been working, like I said, since that. So it carried on all the way till now. So it's all about, for me, I have a very good work ethic where I'm constantly working and trying to do good. So I set that example for my kids, like, hey, nothing is free in life. If you want something, you have to work hard. And my kids, as of right now, they seem to be carrying that same work ethic. From my youngest kid right now, she works at the Park District. She works 2 jobs.
Wow.
She's 16. She's in high school.
And working 2 jobs.
And she's working 2 jobs, and she's she has a 4 point something GPA. She's straight A student. My son, all my kids finished high school. My daughter, she just finished Indiana University. She graduated over there. My son, he went to college, but it was like, that was not for me, So
Yeah.
he like stepped back, but he ended up he works for like a company where it's something similar to OSHA, and he just got his real estate license. And then my other kid is in the process of going to like a canine school for bomb detection with a canine.
Is that military or is that more like police force?
So it's going to be a private sector.
Okay.
So they're all working. And then my 15-year-old, he plays sports, so he wants to be. Obviously his goal is to eventually go to the NBA. So he focuses a lot on sports. He plays in multiple leagues. So everybody works pretty hard, and they all have ambitions that they're working towards. So it seems like that work ethic that I have, as well as my wife and some of my other immediate family members, they see that we work hard, so they kind of get the idea.
Yeah, a 16-year-old, 2 jobs. I feel like your work ethic definitely rubbed off on that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you worked from you were 12, right? I was an assistant referee when I was 12 years old for soccer. It's not necessarily the one-to-one door salesman, which could have been a great experience if you want to be a salesman in the future.
Yeah.
Which could obviously help you with your fishing company as well. So how do you see this fishing company 5 years down the line? Where do you see yourself? Do you see yourself with like 10 charter boats? Do you see yourself with 7? Like what's the future? Where do you want to take this?
So my ultimate goal is to eventually probably relocate to Florida, but still keep my business here. So just expanding to Florida. So I think 3 boats is probably good enough to be comfortable, not having to worry about handling all these other boats and stuff like that. So I think 3 boats I'm comfortable with. So I think and that's just my short-term goal right now. Who knows? Maybe 5 years from now, depending on how business is, I might expand a couple more boats. But I think 3 boats as of right now, it's where I want to be.
Yeah. So where do you think the best fishing place is in America or in the world? Where do you think the best spot is? Florida.
Florida.
Have you ever been to the Mediterranean?
No.
Ooh.
So I can't really. I really can't. So I fished in Mexico.
Okay.
I fished all over the United States.
Mm-hmm.
I fished in Puerto Rico. I fished in Colombia. So a couple other places I want to go fish. Maybe Alaska. Maybe. Let me see where else.
Like a little Alaska ice fishing.
Yeah.
Get the whole thing and just put it down there.
Well, you know what? Maybe not the whole ice fishing, but they have really good salmon fishing. And
okay.
So, I probably wouldn't mind going over there, and their salmon are a lot larger. So, they're a lot bigger than the ones we have here. So, but Florida, you can't beat ocean fishing. Florida has it all. I go to Florida maybe 5-6 times a year. I go out there, and you could catch whatever you want to catch.
Wow.
They have so many different species. And plus the weather's nice.
Yeah, I feel like it's
nice.
Relatively nice, other than like the hurricanes that come through sometimes. But
yeah,
other than that, it's pretty good weather out there consistently.
Yep.
Have you ever gone to the West Coast fishing off California?
Oh yeah.
How does that compare to Florida?
It's good. It's good fishing. I think anytime you're gonna fish the ocean, you're gonna catch fish. The water is a lot warmer on the Florida side than it is in California. And the water, I would say probably it's calmer along the Gulf than it is in California. But yeah, I love California. California is, I actually wanted to move to California within the last couple of years. But my wife, she is like, no, and she's from there.
Oh, okay.
She's from California.
Southern California, Northern California?
Southern.
Okay.
Yeah, City of Orange, like around the Anaheim and Disney area. So that's where she's from. But she's like, it's too expensive. She's like, I'd rather just let's just stay here and maybe move to Florida later on down the road. So, like, okay.
Yeah, she's itching for that warm weather as well.
Yeah. But she loves Chicago. I love Chicago. If Chicago had summer weather all year long, you can't beat it.
Or even just not blistering cold weather.
Yeah.
If it got down to like 40 to 50 degrees, perfect.
I could live with that.
I could totally live with that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and then a couple days, maybe it goes below 32 and snows for a little bit, and then it just goes right back up to 40 to 50 degrees. So
Yep.
it's like, I don't even know what state that would be. Would be like northern, like South Carolina, maybe North Carolina.
Yeah, well, San Diego. San Diego has the perfect weather.
Yeah.
Even in Arizona, I mean, we would get into the 30s.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and in Phoenix, you know, that's, you know, we go down to the 30s, and then all of a sudden we're in 90 that same day.
Wow.
You know, so in the desert it was weird, and they get a lot of snow. Like you drive up to Flagstaff.
Really?
I mean, they get so much snow over there. You could drive an hour and
Is it just the humidity? Like there's no humidity, so it just snows, or how does that work?
the elevation and stuff like that. So it's a lot colder up in Flagstaff and stuff like that. So a lot of people are like, oh, you live in Arizona, there's no snow, it doesn't get oh, they get way more snow than they do in Chicago.
Yeah. I mean, it's like the western part of East Michigan. It's like right 10 miles in, 20 miles in, just gets like pummeled with snow.
Oh yeah, over
Yeah.
here. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So
Yep.
that's crazy. Have you ever tried any like winter sports? Are you into that at all?
Nope.
You haven't tried any? Or do you want to try any at all?
Nope.
No skiing or snowboarding for you?
I'm telling you, when it's I don't like the snow.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've gone sledding and stuff like. I think that's about as. But other than that, I'm like, stay away from the snow. I'm like, it's not for me. It's
Right.
not for me.
Yeah. So in the winter, then, boats obviously not in the lake at all. When does the season start for you then? Does it just start once all the ice melts from the lake, or?
Yeah. So as long as there's no ice on the water, and it's above freezing, we could still go out. So it's cold. So
Mm-hmm.
that's usually for like the die-hard fishing, you know, people who want to
Yeah.
go out there and just get out there and catch some fish. So I run trips. I think last year I did a trip all the way up until December. January, February, we didn't do any trips because it was cold and the water, I believe it was frozen over in the harbors at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And then we started running trips in March. So we probably have about 3 months where we're not
Yeah.
really doing trips unless the conditions are nice enough where we could get out there on the water. So,
Right. I feel like December's been relatively warm recently, where
Yeah.
it's not like
Yeah.
gotten like 10 degrees or 15 degrees. It's usually sitting in the 40s and 30s.
It's this weather pattern's just been so weird. I mean, you
Yeah.
know, the last 5 years we had snow on Halloween.
Yeah.
You know, it's like
I remember
everything's
that.
shifting a little bit. You know, it's getting, you know, what's normally December weather is now, you know,
Like February now.
it's just weird.
Yeah. And then I remember it being freezing and snowing on Halloween, and then it was like a day or two after, and it was like 50 degrees.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yep.
I think that was last year, right?
It did snow.
Last year, 2 years ago.
I know 2 years, was it 2 years ago? It was recent
Mhm.
where we had snow on Halloween. I think it was last year.
I think it was last
And
year.
then
Yeah.
and then it was like 3 years ago prior to that where we had like a decent amount of snow because we were out there. I'm huge into Halloween.
Yeah.
So I would set up a whole bunch of animatronics in my front yard. I mean, I would
Big
have
skeletons and
I had thousands. I probably had about $10,000 worth of Halloween stuff, animatronics, you know, anything you could think of. My front yard was like a haunted house.
that's awesome.
So we would set up there on Halloween. You know, we'd dress up, me and all the kids. My brother would come. He'd bring some tools, you know, and we'd have the sparks, you know, like the chainsaw and everything like that. So people would come. And I remember, you know, it was snowing. Like, it was snow on the ground and everything like that. So, and I think this was about 3 years ago. Maybe 4.
I think
3 or 4 years ago.
Well, 4 years ago, wasn't that the COVID year? Is that 2020? I don't remember anyone really being out for. I remember it not.
maybe
It didn't
3.
snow. I think 3 years ago.
Maybe 3 years ago,
Like
then.
last year and 3 years ago, it definitely snowed. And then 2 years ago, I remember it just being relatively cold. I remember 2020 it being like cold, and we were curious if anyone was even going to walk down and come to door or not, but because you had to like basically leave the candy outside because at that time everyone was like,
Okay.
stay away from each other. So
I remember those days.
yeah, it was crazy. So yeah, it's how did the animatronics and all that break down or anything, or were they all perfectly fine?
No, they held through.
Yeah, I was gonna say they have to be rated to like
Yep.
30 degrees or below.
Yeah, I mean, they all managed. They all worked. So, we'd had, lines of people just coming through. We'd chase them down the block and everything. It was, it was a good time. It was a good time.
So there's sheets that we have. That there's a couple towns near us that have it where there's like sheets and there's like levels to each like house that you can visit. And there's like level 1, which is like not scary at all, and it's just like a little picture. Level 2, it gets a little bit more scary, and then it goes all the way to 5. And level 5 is like live people, so like there could be like a fake zombie or like someone that's gonna chase you down. So basically, your house would be like a level 5 on that sheet.
Yeah, because we had at least 5 people participating. So like me, my kids, my brother. We would all dress up. We'd have, some of the kids dressed like they look like dummies. So especially so we had the candy bowl, and it looked like a prop.
Right.
My daughter was
Like we're
sitting down.
there,
Yeah,
it's
sitting
like-
there. And then when they come, they're focused. Their attention is focusing on the people who are moving and doing stuff. So when they go to grab and reach in, and then my daughter would spring into zombie mode. It would just scare the crap out of these little kids. They'd run, and it was like, oh, just don't fall because there's snow on the ground and stuff. But yeah, it was fun.
That's
fun.
awesome. What was your favorite costume then? Are you a zombie, or are you like a
I did-
chainsaw guy, or?
Yeah, I did a little bit of everything. From clown to zombie. I just mix it up.
That's
Whatever
awesome.
looks scary, I'd put it on.
What's your thoughts this year? What do you got? What do you got in store?
So, being that I've been so swamped with everything, I kind of not prepared to set up this year.
All right, well, we still got some time, so
I do.
I believe in you.
I do.
I believe in you. A little trip to Halloween. What's that store again? Spirit Halloween.
Spirit
Yeah,
Halloween.
a little trip there. Get a little costume, a little onesie or something. Call it a day.
Yeah. So what I would do is, at the end of every Halloween season, Spirit, they put a huge sale on all their things. So I would go there the very next day and buy all their animatronics. I would just stock up, and I'd go up things that you spend $4,000 or $5,000, you get a half off.
Wow.
So you're saving that way, but it's
You're basically
expensive.
just preparing for the next year,
Yep.
though. It's not like
Yep.
you need it until the next year, anyways.
Yep.
But you wanted that thing, and you're just kind of waiting for that price cut.
Yep.
Because I'm pretty sure they do like pop-up stores, right? Where they just kind of pop the store up for like 2-3 months, and then they just shut
Yep.
the whole thing down.
Yep.
And I know they've had them for Christmas as well, and they're usually the same kind of stores where they just kind of swap out
Yeah.
Halloween for Christmas
Yep.
stuff. So that's pretty cool. Do you do like a Thanksgiving football game stuff too with the police officers as well, or no?
We're usually working, so we'll either get together, while we're on shift, go someplace, have dinner or something like that, and watch the game and spend time together. So
That's awesome. Yeah, I would say the hot chocolate run is usually right around then, right? The Chicago 5K or whatever it is.
they do so many.
They do so
They
many.
do so many, but I think it is.
I think it might be either right after Thanksgiving, around Christmas, or right around Thanksgiving. But yeah, that's one my parents have gone to that I definitely want to hit up this year.
Oh, yeah?
I haven't. They've gone multiple years, and I've just been waiting till now that I finally have a little more time on my hands. I can go and start running a little bit more with them, and I think
Nice.
that's gonna be cool.
Nice.
I think it's cool that they have just like a hot chocolate jacket. Like it's so strange to me, but it's like so cool. I don't know, but. Yeah, that's cool. What other hobbies and topics are you into, man? Like, I mean, you got the baseball down. You got to play in Wrigley Field. Like, that is probably one of the coolest things. You got your fishing game going. You have an awesome family, it sounds like, which is super cool.
Yeah.
And then your talk show host. What's all that all about?
So, well, I haven't done a talk show host yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you gonna get there? Are we gonna get there?
I think the closest I'm getting is just like my YouTube stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Where I put out videos and stuff like that, do little presentations, and I think that's about as close as I'm gonna get.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, I'm pretty content where I'm at right now. So
That's awesome. Yeah, I've seen a couple tutorials where you've gone over like different I have no idea what this kind of stuff is, but you were going over different like hooks and different packages that you got throughout the mail. Are you going to do more reviews like that? Is that what you're kind of looking for to grow your YouTube channel, or just like experiences from from your charters?
Yeah, so I do a little mixed. Obviously, I do some educational ones on there, just for people who are curious. Like, all right, how do I get into this? You know, what do I need, and like the fishing equipment and all that stuff. So I do that. And then obviously a lot of my videos are for my customers. So when they book trips with me, my way of saying thanks is to give them a free video of their trip. You know, I take the time, I do the editing for them, and I post it so they could always remember, you know, their trip.
That's awesome.
You know, it's been great. So like being on YouTube and stuff like that, I made some great friends. You know, one of the first friends that I made, his name is Brian. He runs a fishing charter, or not a fishing charter. He runs a boat out of Indiana. It's Big Lake Little Boat. Him and his son Max, which is great. You know, father and son duo on the lake catching fish and stuff like that. So they do great videos. And then I made another buddy. His name is Michael. He does a lot of kayak fishing. Very smart guy. So like, you know, I was able to become friends with him. He does, like, if people want to go out on the water and do kayak fishing and stuff like that, he'll personally take them out, show them how to set everything up. He has a YouTube channel, Shy City Yacker. And then I even made a buddy from across the lake in Michigan. You know, his name is Chris. He runs a Tangle Tackle shop. It's a bait shop where he does a lot of educational videos and stuff like that. Where I watch him a lot because, you know, very intelligent guy. And he has a fishing charter out there. So, you know, the social media stuff, you know, I was able to, you know, become real good friends with, you know, other, you know, YouTube creators and stuff like that. We just did a collaboration last week where all of us got together and we all went out to Michigan to fish with him. So you had multiple video cameras recording, you know, trying to get content for their YouTube channel. You know, it was funny. So I just posted that video. You know, it was a little over an hour long, but it documented like the trip and stuff like that. So it was a good time. You know, social media could be, you know, you can make some really good friends like that.
Yeah, I feel like if you use it the right way, it can lead you towards people that are really going to be the same as your community that you build. Because if you're building a fishing community, the people that you're going to attract are most likely going to be a fishing community. If you build good relationships with people, most likely you're going to be attracting all those good relationships with people.
Absolutely.
And I think that it's just so cool to see. And I'm glad you're getting out there and doing that. So that's essentially your talk show host itch is doing the YouTube channel to get that. That's pretty cool. I think the fact that you have over 1,000 subscribers and you're almost at, I think, 1 million views is super impressive. And it's a lot of videos, pushing a lot of content. And I think the fact that you're doing videos for the people to give them their experience basically back and saying, remember when you caught this? Look at this big boy here. I think that's just something that you don't really see in a lot of people nowadays. You don't see people giving back for free, basically, like, here's your experience, here's everything, don't worry about it. I'm glad you guys were able to have this awesome experience. Thank you for coming, and thank you for, you know, coming and fish with me. Have you ever brought somebody on where they were not able to catch a fish, or have you caught a fish every single time?
So here's the thing when it comes to fishing, and trust me, when I go and I book trips with people, the first question I usually ask is, are we going to catch fish? I know the answer. I know. I mean, but you know what? It's like, it's a comfort thing. You know, you want them to say, yes, we're going to catch fish. The reality is it's fishing. You know, it's like, if I ate before I came here and I'm stuffed and you come to me with a steak and be like, here you go. You know, I really don't want it right now. You know,
right.
So, you know, it's a couple of things that people need to understand is, as a business owner, as somebody who loves to fish, I want you to catch fish. I want everybody to catch fish because it brings me joy to watch my customers fighting and having to smile, and then watching them all bring out their cameras and, you know, cheering for each other, you know. So I want that. Unfortunately, there are times when fishing is slow. You know, it's like we could go out there and on our fish finders, we could see hundreds of fish on the graph. and we have 15 to 18 rods out there, and all our baits go over the fish, and we're like, crickets, all right, fish, go ahead and bite. Come on, fish, go ahead and bite. And they don't bite, and we just keep working and working and working, and there's a difference, it's like fighting fish versus landing fish. We could go out there and I could put you on all the fish. You could be fighting fish all day long, but it's their responsibility to bring the fish in, to bring at least bring the fish close enough where it gives us an opportunity to reach over and net the fish. So that's, I've had trips where it's been really slow, and I've had trips where we could barely get a couple rods in the water because it's just so busy. And then we've had trips where our customers fight, they're fighting all these fish, but their technique is a little off, which ultimately ends the fish getting off the hook. So, every day is different. Obviously, our goal is to always catch as many fish as possible. But you know what? Even though we go out there to fish,
right?
But it's about spending quality time with the people that's on the boat as well. You're going out there. You went out there usually with friends and families and stuff like that. So it gives them time to talk. They're together. You don't have phone signal once we usually get about 6 miles offshore. So they're stuck together and having to talk to each other. And that's lost now. Everything is about text messaging.
Yeah.
And
how's it going out there? You guys catch a fish yet?
Yeah,
and you're just like, my phone didn't even send it. Did he block me? Like,
yeah. So
the text message didn't even go through. So
So it gives them the opportunity to bond and communicate with each other and listen to music and laugh and tell stories while they're waiting for fish. So it's a good time.
That's awesome. So you got a little playlist going on, speakers on the boat?
Yes. Yep.
Always.
So there's Bluetooth on there. So if people want to put on their own music or just listen to whatever I have on I downloaded so many different playlists for, because obviously I have people from all over the world.
Yeah.
I get people from China, from Africa, from, all over the States. So, I try to keep a variety of different musics. So
yeah, a little classic pop, little this,
a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
A little bit of everything.
That is absolutely phenomenal.
Yep.
How would a beginner fisher get into it? What rod would they get if they wanted to get a beginner rod? Where would they kind of start? Because obviously going out to Lake Michigan might be a little bit big of a start, but they could.
Could. Because, there's, Lake Michigan offers such a variety of fish. You could go out there and catch little fish, bluegills and perch and, smallmouth bass, largemouth bass, carp. You could go out there and catch all that. There's a lagoon, the lagoon, Diversity Lagoon, right by Lincoln Park Zoo.
Yeah.
That leads right into Lake Michigan. All the harbors lead into Lake Michigan. So you could go along the shoreline over there and just,
cast a reel and just sit there. And,
and a lot of it's going to come to, like the person's experience, Obviously, the push button, the spinning reel, the bait caster, all of these you're going to have to practice with. So the easiest one is just like those little push rods, just push the button and cast.
Get a cast, yeah.
And obviously, if you just want to go out there and try to catch fish, just get a little hook, throw a piece of worm on there, a little weight, a bobber or something, and just throw it out there. You'll catch a fish. You'll catch a fish. So
that's pretty cool.
But if you're looking to expand your knowledge, get into it more, the best way to do it is social media. Go on YouTube. You can find anything you want about different rods, reels, combos, and then book a guide. Go out with a guide who's willing to explain the equipment. I've gone out with guides and charter people who they don't want to explain anything that they're using. They just want to go out there, leave me alone, let me set everything up, catch a fish, and that's it. I run a hands-on trip. So if my customers want to learn things, if they ask questions, we go ahead and then we explain everything to them, because obviously we want this knowledge to be passed down.
Yeah.
So that way they could pass it down to their kids, and they're the future. So a lot of these kids that come on my boat, they're the future of fishing. So we want that knowledge to be passed down. We don't want, like, at least the way I run my business is, we don't want them to go and be like, man, that was a horrible experience. That captain was rude. That captain, we want people to be like, hey, we had a great time. hey, you know what? We had a great time with this captain. I think you should, you should go out with him. So obviously recommendations and stuff like that. But yeah, we want people to learn and have a good time. So
That's awesome. So now that you've caught the fish, everything's back in, it's a good day. Do you go cook the fish for dinner that day, or how do you?
So customers, obviously, they take their fish unless they don't want it. If they don't
Okay.
want it, then obviously we take the fish, and we have plenty of people that want, who want fresh
Fish, right?
So for the most part, they all take the fish because obviously salmon and trout, it's expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So my brother Leo, which is my first mate, he'll, as we're heading in, he fillets the fish and stuff like that, puts it in a bag, and then gives it to the customer at the end of the trip so they could take home and cook. So
That's awesome. You ever thought about cooking on the actual boat itself?
that'll be a little hard.
Yeah.
It'll be a little hard because obviously you have the grill or the fire, the stove or whatever you're using to,
Mm-hmm.
it's a little hard to just get it going on the boat.
Yeah.
But I've had people eat raw fish on the boat. They bring their stuff. We cut the fish up. They do their little thing, and they have fresh fish. Right at the back of the boat.
That's not bad.
So
It's kind of like sushi, right?
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yep.
pretty cool.
Clean it out. And they eat it right at the back.
Because we had an experience, because I'm Greek, and we went to Greece this past summer, and we had basically an experience where we went on this boat around. We were in Santorini. We went around the island, and they essentially cooked for us on the boat.
On the boat?
For us to eat that food. So
Oh,
they
wow.
were grilling on the back of the boat, just like getting everything. And obviously, it was like a large tourist boat where it's
Okay.
meant to fit like probably like 25, 28 people.
Okay.
So it's like a very
Yeah, so
large
they
boat.
have- yeah.
But like they were able to cook for us on the boat, and you can just smell everything going. You can see the grill; it's flaming up, and you're just like
Nice.
sitting there. You're driving. You're like, oh, that smells.
Yeah,
that smells real
that's
nice. And then we just kind of park inside the cove, and then they like bring everything out. They're like, hey, here's all the food. Eat all the food, and then they gave us just tons of snorkeling gear and was like, go at it. There's tons of fish down there because what they do is they kind of like toss little pieces for the fish to eat, and so then all
yeah.
the fish like run up to
Yep.
the boat, and then so you're just like snorkeling, you just see all these big fish everywhere and everything
Wow.
just swimming around. My sister was like, oh my god, I'm scared, I'm never going in there, there's like all these little fish, I'm gonna get eaten alive.
Yeah.
And I'm in there and I'm like trying to pet the fish, I'm like trying to like get in there. What's up?
The audio kind of cut off.
Oh yeah, just feel free to plug it back in.
Yeah, that's it could be intimidating having all these fish around you because obviously small fish attract bigger fish, so you never know.
Yes, that is true. And then another snorkeling experience I had with my mom was one cool thing that I had the grateful experience. I was going to school in Hawaii, so through my university I had an exchange program that I was allowed to go to school in Hawaii for a semester, and so I brought my parents out there to visit me and we went snorkeling, and my mom was just freaking out. She's like, there's a fish there, and I was like, we're in the ocean, Mom. This is a coral reef.
Oh.
I was like, there's gonna be plenty of big fish around you.
Yeah.
And I was just like having her like relax and just like kind of like holding her so that she just like floats and swims essentially. And then I have some friends that are also crazy nuts with this. They'll have their snorkeling gear and then they'll have fins and they'll just dive like 20 feet down to go like see some more fish that
No.
are way lower, and then they'll come back up. Obviously a lot different than what
Yeah.
you're doing, but
So my wife, I don't know how she does it, but she'll take off her snorkeling gear and she'll just go straight down and she'll swim all the way to the bottom of the reef. Not me. I'm like, no, and it's interesting that, when I go fishing in Florida, I mean, we're catching shark knee-high water. That's like, the ocean is like, it's a different animal. You could be like, oh, there's nothing here. And all of a sudden you see all these sharks just swimming around.
yep.
It's like, yeah.
It's very scary. I feel like Florida is pretty shark infested though.
Yeah. There's
There's-
a lot of sharks there. Different species of sharks.
Yeah, and most of them aren't really there to go snap at you or anything.
Yeah.
The ones that really are the ones that just haven't eaten literally anything, and mostly like the really aggressive sharks. But
Yeah.
I love the statistic is that more people die a year to refrigerators than they do to sharks.
Huh.
Yeah. So there's and by a lot too, which is
Oh, wow.
crazy. Yeah. So and everyone's like, that statistic's wrong, and I was like, how many refrigerators are in people's houses? Like at least one or maybe two. And how many times is anyone in the middle of the country ever seeing a shark? So it's like obviously
Yeah.
that statistic is going to be
Yeah, I could see it.
a little biased, but it is true.
I could see it.
And in Hawaii, the sharks are kind of on like the northern part, and they're relatively off the coast. They don't really come towards the beaches or anything like that. I haven't ever encountered anything that's super close. And I think it's just because the coral reef kind of blocks everything around the island, so that like they really don't like going over there, because then if they get stuck, they could be stuck on a coral reef, and then they'll be kind of just floating or like or not be able to get out of that situation.
Yep.
But they got plenty of their own fish and food and all that on the outskirts. But yeah, it was really cool to see like the fish up close and seeing what a big fish looks like and moves like in the water.
Yeah.
Because I mean, when you're reeling, they're a strong fish, and they are maybe, you know, this big, and they can pull.
They pull. They fight.
They can fight and swim, and the way they move, they can just you're pulling like probably like what 100 pounds or 50 pounds, or that's probably what it feels like.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny because I'll get some like big jacked people, you know, and they're like 2 minutes into it, they're like, "Oh man, I'm tired." You know, it's like you know, a lot of people don't realize how tiring it can be, because you know sometimes the line is way out there, and you're trying to bring the fish in. The fish is like, "No, I'm going the other way."
Yeah.
You know, so you know, people. I mean, there's times where we have multiple people reeling in one fish because they just get tired.
Yeah.
You know,
so
it's like
and then like pass.
Yeah, they're just not used to. You know, it's just not a natural. You know, people are not working out like this, fighting a fish.
No one's sitting there in the gym just going like this all day.
You know, and so they get tired and they're like, "All right, I need help tagging." You know, like, "All right, tag your partner." So, but yeah, it's funny. It's a workout. Their arms definitely get tired. So.
Yeah, that's sweet. And you're out there back there just filming them right behind them,
laughing because you know, and it's funny because people don't realize their facial expressions until they see it. You know, because I get close and personal because I know their facial reaction. They're gonna be making funny faces because they're fighting these fish and they're tired, and you know their face is just doing all these random expressions. And so I put the camera. I'm like, all right, put the camera close and personal. And I'm like, okay, got it.
They watch it back. They're like, oh my God, what was I making that face for?
Exactly.
Like, what am I doing? Like,
exactly.
Oh, it was a lot harder than you thought it was, all right?
Yep.
And just stories to tell around the Christmas table, you know, which is super cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, dude, I really appreciate you coming on and telling me these stories. I would love for you to tell us how to get in contact with you.
Yeah. So I have multiple different social media platforms. So for YouTube, it's Big Water Fishing with Ernesto, or you can look me up at Thin Blue Line Fishing LLC. My cell phone number is 708-663-2467. And you can find me just on Google search, Thin Blue Line Fishing LLC. It'll all pop up. So
that's awesome, dude. Thank you for coming on.
No problem. It was fun.
Appreciate you. Yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah.
We'll definitely have to catch up again sometime. And once you get the other boat, we'll have to take it out and go fishing ourselves. Yeah.
I'll
have to charter you.
Hopefully we'll have it this Saturday. So I'll be posting the announcement probably within the next couple of days.
Awesome. I look forward to it, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate you coming on. Thank you.
No problem.